Hey guys, it's Todd from Like-Minded Lunatics bringing you another drink, play, swear. Hey, it's all we do around here. It's all the Dylan Thomas poem, Don't Go Gentle Into That Good Night, inspired us to do around here. We're glad you're with us. While I'm thinking about it, why don't you hit that subscribe button at the bottom right-hand corner of this very screen. You could do it right now and save yourself the trouble later. I promise you want to subscribe. We got all kinds of stuff on the channel for you. Not just these drink, play, swears and Mark's Friday Night videos, but we've also got the original material, the fictional radio dramas that Mark and I started doing when we started working together way back in 2014, before this enormous Like-Minded Lunatics media empire began. We wrote a little story together called When Thomas Tried to Be a Grave Robber. You can check that out right there. And of course, there are two other parts to that trilogy, and then there's another companion piece to go with it. So if you fall in love with the stuff we're doing, I won't be surprised. Okay. Sorry, I have no shame when it comes to self-promotion. Anyway, hit that subscribe, please. What are we doing today? We are, well, this is Drink, Play, Swear. If you're not from around these parts, we do just that. We play a game, usually a classic one. I pair it with a beverage, and I tell you a story. So what are we doing today? Well, you can see right here what we're doing. It's Missile Command. Missile Command. Now, this is, you see at the bottom screen there of the game screen, 1980. This predates me. I was born in 81, okay? So we're going a little prehistory for me. Before my time, I mean slightly before my time. Like I was, not out in the world yet, but like, I don't know, my cells were multiplying. So, we're going to check that game out today, Missile Command. I had a couple of options here. I could have done the arcade port, I could have done the 2600, or I could have done the 5200. Going with the arcade port today because I think the bells and whistles on it are a little better, but they're essentially the same game. The Atari stuff, very rudimentary in terms of graphics, but hey, one thing people remember is the insanely good art associated with these. Oh, what am I doing? Over here, Todd. This is the Missile Command art that was on the side of the arcade cabinet and that went along with the 2600. I'm pulling this from the book Art of Atari. Really great if you're into the old games. This has got some beautiful artwork in it and some cool commentary on Atari. If you're an Atari junkie, that's for you. I dipped my toe into the world of Atari. It was the height of its popularity, slightly before my time, but I like to see where stuff came from, right? The history of games, and so I've been playing quite a bit of Atari lately. Pairing that today with another classic. This is a Jim Beam and Coke. So get yourself a beverage. I don't care what you have. Join me for a game and a story. Cheers to that. All right. I mean, I'm not insanely good at the Atari world of games, but I mean, have you ever seen me be really good at a game? I did all right on Wild Guns, I'm going to say. All right, so real basic game, but really addicting and fun is you're trying to protect your little blue bases here, and the bad guys are shooting missiles at you, and so you're intercepting those. Now, one of the major differences between the arcade port and the console ports is that I've got limited ammunition. On the 2600, I think you could just hit your button as many times as you wanted, and they'd let you keep going. But on the arcade, they forced you to be more careful with your shots. And I thought it would be a good opportunity, since I'm going to be playing this with you today, to talk Atari, to talk a little of my Atari memories, because yes, the Nintendo Entertainment System was my first home console. You can check out the video where I talk about acquiring that little machine, the very first Drink, Play, Swear, where my dad loses it. I think that's probably my favorite one so far. But it wasn't the first home console I played. I did hang out at a friend's place when I was little and played his Atari. So I want to tell you that story today. Before I played a home console, and before I had a home console, I did have a little experience with video games. Oops, lost a base there. I did have a little experience with video games, and that was from the arcade. And the arcade was so important in the 80s to entertainment, you know. Your movie theaters had arcade systems and, arcade consoles, cabinets, if you will, and they were just everywhere. So you found yourself as a little kid, 1 or 2 years old, getting on a stool and mashing buttons. And I remember going to the gas station once. I told gas station memories before. You should also go check out that video. I told the story before about being in the gas station, but one of my very first memories in life, period, is being at that gas station with my dad. I must have been 2, maybe 3, and I was sitting there mashing Pac-Man buttons, and I didn't put a quarter in because look at this, I'm getting destroyed. They smoked me. I didn't know you put money in. I didn't know you put. Look at this. Isn't this interesting? Watch. The end. Not game over. The end. Okay. I didn't know you put a quarter in, so there I am, just mashing buttons, and then like an older kid comes up, "Excuse me, dude," puts a quarter in, and then all of a sudden the arcade machine lights up, starts making noises, and all this wonderful stuff, and I realized that you needed a quarter to play the game. And I ran up to my dad, I said, "Dad, can I have a quarter?" He says, "What do you need a quarter for?" I said, "To play the game." He said, "Who told you needed a quarter?" He was disappointed that, the video game thing was going to become an expense, and it didn't get cheaper over the years. I continued to beg for quarters, for consoles, for games, until I was old enough to buy my own. But my first home console experience was with a friend. I'm going to call him Andy. It wasn't his real name, but like all these, I don't get permission to tell these stories, so I'm just going with Andy. I missed that little Sputnik. Did you see him go by? Come on. Okay. So there was this kid, Andy, at the Terra Apartments. I told Terra Apartment stories before too. Hanging out the ditch. Hey, I got all kinds of stuff. This is like an interconnected web of stories. Okay, and it's all a plea for help. No, I'm sorry. That's not true at all. But it was this kid, Andy, in my neighborhood at the Terra Apartments. And at that time, at the Terra Apartments, it was mostly grown-ups. It was mostly adults renting. Not a lot of stuff catered to the kids. But when my mom saw that there was another kid, we immediately went over and just knocked the door. I think it was probably because, she was at home with me all day and she needed a break. I'm 3 years old or whatever. She needs me to get some friends and get socialized, and knocked the door. And there was Andy. He was 3 years old also, a little blonde kid. And my mom just trusted me with Andy's grandma, and I just started hanging out there every once in a while. And Andy lived with his grandma because he had like 2 deadbeat parents, you know that situation. He had like 2 deadbeat parents. I don't really know the full story on that because I was 3 and didn't ask. But man, they're easily destroying me here. But I remember Andy being fun, and he was nice, and Grandma was, oh man, just rough around the edges grandma, which thinking back now on it, it's like, well, yeah, she was left with her son or her daughter's kid. That's no easy task. So she was grumpy, man. She just, like, when I came over, she would lay toys out and leave, like walk out of the room. Like there was no hang with us, read us books, forget it. You kids are on your own. And so we do whatever. We build blocks, Army Men, whatever toys you have at 3 in the 80s. Uh-oh, I'm running out of ammo here. I don't even know. Okay, there we go. And we ran out of stuff to do, and it's like there's nothing to do. You lose interest in the blocks and in the Army Men after a few minutes. And I'm like, do you have anything else to play with? And he's like, I have an Atari. And I'm like, I had heard of an Atari, you see. Never played it, heard of an Atari. I'm like, you have an Atari? He's like, yeah, I have a 2600. My grandma keeps it locked in a closet. So grandma kept the Atari locked in a closet. So here's what I remember of this. The Atari 2600 had been a gift from Deadbeat Dad. And you know that deadbeat dad that like he only comes around every once in a while, and then when he comes around, he's showering you with gifts, kind of thing. So the 2600 had been one of those gifts for Andy, and well, I guess I got to benefit from his terrible parenting, and he got him a 2600. Well, Andy's grandma was one of these ladies that thought like everything was the devil, like electronics were the devil, because anything secular, you see, anything that wasn't religious took you away from religion. And so, playing cards, dancing to music, anything was the devil. The 2600 was the devil. But she also recognized that it was an expensive piece of electronic equipment and it was a gift from Dad. So she kept it. But here was the rule: 30 minutes a week. 30 minutes a week with the Atari. And I was so enamored with the idea of the Atari that Andy just started waiting to play Atari when I was around. I guess I would come over about once a week. Here's the thing. Wrap your head around this. I don't know if you understand this or not. I don't know the age of the person watching this, the average age of the person. The Atari 2600, it wasn't just a quick HDMI hookup, okay? You needed a screwdriver to put the... you needed, like, pliers, in some cases, to get some of this equipment going. You didn't set it up yourself, usually. You had an adult do it, So Grandma not only gave him 30 minutes a week, but she kept it locked up in the closet, and from the moment we asked to use the Atari, she started the clock, and she included the time it took for her to set the game up. So the time was limited to play, and when you're just frantic to play by the time it gets going. What did he have? Well, I remember he had this. He had Missile Command. He had, I don't remember if he had Space Invaders. I know he had Combat, because Combat was the pack-in for the 2600. It was a tank game. At the time, fun. Some of these games are like hard to play by today's standards because they're used to much better games. No offense, my Atari heads. Then the Atari fans out there are like, hey, be good at Missile Command before you talk garbage about the Atari. I get it. I understand. I'm sorry, I'm a young buck and I don't understand your caveman games. Oh, I don't get too many mean comments, but I'm asking for it today. And look how fast they're coming. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm already saying it's a great game. Don't give me a hard time about it. So we'd play for the few minutes we could. The thing that struck me about playing at home, and I don't know if a today audience is going to be able to wrap their heads around this in the same way that a kid of the 80s was able to. But when you're a kid, you don't have any power. You don't have any control over what's happening in your life. And of course, you usually don't have control even over the TV. There was one TV in the house, and you watched it when your parents weren't using it. Obviously, Saturday mornings, because of Saturday morning cartoons, you had it a little more often. But a lot of times you didn't have control of the TV. And so with a video game console like the Atari, and later the Nintendo, what happened is all of a sudden not only did you get to pick what you got to look at on the TV, but you were holding a controller. And that controller affected what everyone in the room saw. It was this immense ability, this immense amount of control all of a sudden that a kid had, and that's rare for a kid. So I think was part of the appeal for video games was, wow, look, I'm changing what the screen is doing. That seems silly today because, of course, with our phones, we're all always doing that, and kids are doing that from a very young age. I think I'm out of ammo. Yeah, what do you do, Atari heads? What do you do when you're out of ammo on Missile Command? Because I know there's got to be a better way to do this. All right, so I didn't know Andy for very long. They moved away. I hope he's okay. I honestly, I don't even remember his real last name. I barely remember his real first name. But the Atari stuck with me. And anytime I saw in the arcade an arcade game by Atari, it just felt epic. It felt important, and I loved it. So my Atari memories are limited; they really are, but they're there, and it's the precursor to all the games I love. So I wanted to get in a little Missile Command and a little Atari memory story with you today. Thanks for being with us. I hope you hit that subscribe button, and I hope you come back lots of times for lots of good content. We got new things that we're planning every day. So in between now and the next time I talk to you, I'm Todd. See ya.